bit late. Yeah, let's start. No introductions required. Let's just kick right in. Is everyone here who needs to be here? I can't hear you guys.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I don't need any introduction. I think it's more important we just get into the lecture. What do you think? Yeah. Let me share my screen. How do I do that? Present now.
Yeah.
Okay, my entire screen. Okay. Oh, I can't do that. Can you? I can't. The share doesn't enable me to click it. Why? Do you need to give me permission?
We can present it without permission.
I'm not able to do it. I only have share and cancel. The cancel, I can click the share. I can't click.
Or maybe you didn't click the tab or the thing that you want to share.
No, I'm sharing the entire screen.
Oh.
I'm sharing my entire screen, and I don't have to click my screen. Why can't I share? It's not working, guys.
Mr. Kevin, I think maybe you can try again. If there's any problem, maybe you can send the presentation to me.
I cannot send my presentation to you. I need to change the slides.
Okay.
Yeah. I can't send it to you. It's not working. Maybe I'll log out and I'll log in again and see what happens. Yeah.
Okay, sure. You can try that.
I still can't share, guys. Something is wrong. I think you need whoever's in control needs to give permission. I'm not able to share.
Yeah, maybe Iman Hakim could check that for a second. Maybe we need to. Is there any permission we should give to? But I think
I don't think there's any need. I don't think there's any need for permission because actually everyone in here can present. So I think Mr. Kevin, you choose the entire screen, right?
I tried window also. I can't.
Your presentation is in PowerPoint or what?
PowerPoint, yes. There are three different options. One is an entire screen, another is a window, and last is a tab. I've tried entire screen and window, they don't work.
What comes up after you click the entire screen?
The screen comes up, and then there's cancel or share. And the share is gray. I can't click share. I can only click cancel.
Oh, you need to click on the picture.
Yeah, you need to click on the picture.
Thank you very much.
And then you just share.
All done. Thank you very much.
All right.
Okay, let me get rid of this.
Okay, it's okay.
I'm all good. Okay, can you see that?
Yeah, we can see it. Yes, very clear.
Okay, I'm just going to start doing this. What is this? Okay, I'm just going to start presenting. Yeah. Hey, what happened? I need to go back to the original. Let me end the show and start again, yeah? Okay. Okay. I'm going to try to keep this as short as I can, but I think it'll be at least an hour, maybe 45 minutes, but I'll try to go fast. I'm going to talk about responsibility and reputation because this is something not discussed at all in schools anywhere in the world, never mind Malaysia, yeah? And I think we've forgotten what it all means. But let's begin with Versailles. I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with the garden palace that the King Louis XIV, the Sun King, got built in France in 1682. This is Versailles. If any of you have not been there, you must make a trip. It's a remarkable palace. King Louis XIV, the Sun King, decided he didn't want to have his palace inside the city, inside Paris. So he got André Lenotre, the famous French Baroque architect, to design the gardens and this palace out in the countryside. And this is it, yeah? This is King Louis XIV. And I'll be showing you photographs of these people who are supposed to act with responsibility, but did not, yeah? And anyway, this is the forecourt of the Versailles Palace in France. And just to give you an idea of how big this is the palace itself. The city of Versailles is on the right-hand side. It grew up around the palace to serve the palace, the royalty, yeah? There's a huge shape of a man-made lake in the shape of a cross. That lake is almost 2 kilometers long from east to west, yeah? And the gardens are a crazy, it looks very simple, but you will get lost within 15 minutes. The palace is over here, where I'm circling with my arrow, and I'm going to zoom in on that red area right there, okay? To give you an idea of scale. Now, this is the forecourt we were looking at earlier. All these little things you see are the ants. These are not ants, they're people, yeah? They are queuing up to go inside the new funnel here, which is a new contemporary design entrance to ease the huge numbers of people that come in. Now, to get from the gate, this is the front gate where the horses used to ride in. To get from that area, walking to the forecourt where the emperor was, the king was welcome, it takes you 7.5 minutes walking. That's how long this is, yeah? That's almost 3/4 of a kilometer long. And the line starts here, and I'll show you a picture on a good day. This is a good day, yeah, when there are only 10,000 people. On a good day, you might see it strange. Some people are facing one way, the others are facing the other way. It's because the line starts way the hell up there. It goes all the way down to the gate on a bad day, and it goes back up again. It comes back down again, it goes back up again, it comes back down again, goes back up again, and comes back down. On a bad day, this is a good day, yeah, 10,000. On a bad day, there are more than 30,000 people. And it takes you 3.5 hours to get in, okay? The more impressive part of the palace is actually the gardens. You can get in for free, there's no line, and you just walk in through the side. And to give you an idea of how incredible this garden is and what they were doing back in the 16th bloody century, this is almost 500 years ago. This is the view of that grand man-made lake from the fountain that's in front of the main palace balcony. That landscape looks like it's tilting up, and it's almost like a Christopher Nolan movie. You guys seen Inception? It's almost like the water is tilting up and falling over on you because the landscape architect tilted the fore garden here so steeply. The foreshortening makes the perspective look like the landscape is tilting up against your face. They were doing this 500 years ago. So never mind what Christopher Nolan is doing now. This kind of stuff was being done on a scale of an entire landscape, not a movie set, 500 years ago. And King Louis XIV did all this because his claim was that he wanted to honor the people. He didn't say what people, he was just honoring the people. Now, when we go inside the palace, this is what you get to see. Sorry, the slide's a bit blurry, but this is the Hall of the Mirrors, the most famous, iconic room in the palace. Look at all the people there. They're not even looking at the damn thing. They're just taking selfies. So you ask the question, was King Louis XIV referring to these people when he talked about honoring the people? Was he referring to the carpenters and the workers who were building the palace in terms of honoring? But you would think that, well, he's honoring France, he's honoring the people. You assume he's referring to the Republic or the Rakyat, right? He's honoring the people, the French people. Well, none of those French people actually got in there if they were not nobles or aristocrats or other royals themselves. And when he was saying he was honoring the people, the only people he was talking about was really himself, because the aristocrats all crowded the palace in order to honor him. So he's not really honoring the people. I mean, 500 years later, we're still wondering who the hell he was really honoring. It wasn't himself. Because the only people that make money from the millions of euros that pour into the entry coffers of this palace every day are the richest people in France already, who practically own the tourist industry, and the Ministry of Tourism, whom the rich people also pretty much own. I mean, you don't have to look at France to understand this. You just look at what happens happening in Malaysia, you already know what is happening in France. At the highest levels of government, the richest people run the bloody government. Yeah. Now, back then, it was all about royal empowerment. If you're born like a sultan, you're born with royal blood, people have to respect you. They have to kowtow to you, yeah? They have to pujuk you, yeah? And the French Revolution was the mother of all revolutions. They chopped off Marie Antoinette's head. They said, the common people said, no, you cannot be more important than us just because you got special blood. Just because you think you've got royal blood doesn't mean you're more important. So the French Revolution was supposed to get rid of royal empowerment. But it didn't really get rid of it. Something else took its place. And what took its place has existed till today. Look at this advertisement about Elon Musk. Look at this. It looks like an advertisement, but it's actually not an advertisement. It's actually an article written that's supposed to be a critically written article advertised in the Times, the New York Times. Elon Musk, what drives the billionaire who wants to save the planet? Wow. In public, he's one of the world's greatest innovators. In private, oh, sayang, you know, he's a 46-year-old looking for love, still coming to terms with his brutal childhood. Yeah, his brutal childhood. And then Neil Strauss follows him for the 9 months. 9 months, the time it takes to grow a baby, right? And of course, in this looks like an advertisement. He's got all these children around him. He's holding as though he's his children. He cares about children. These children are actors. They're hired to be put inside the bloody picture, okay? And the problem with the world is when we thought we got rid of empowerment, we just replaced royal empowerment with economic empowerment. Your blood is not special, but your money now is special. You got a lot of money. It washes all your sins, all your evilness and wickedness clean. Look at Najib, murdered a Mongolian model. Blood is on his hands, but he's still not in prison because the billions he has stolen from the Rakyat has made him clean, you see? So the problem with the French Revolution, it didn't get rid of empowerment entirely. It merely replaced blood with money, okay? Now, we've got something new. Ai Weiwei here, famous Chinese dissident artist. I'm sure you've heard the term dissident artist. What does that mean? Never mind what it meant. He became very, very famous with an exhibition in Shanghai in the year 2000. What happened was Beijing was having a festival, kind of like a exposition, and all the commercial artists were invited, and all the alternative artists, the Chinese artists that were doing very interesting work, none of them were invited. So Ai Weiwei decided to come up with an alternative exhibition, which she called the fuck off. Well, actually in Chinese, the Chinese characters there read in uncooperative attitude. But of course, in English, it's nicer to just say fuck off, you know, because what he was trying to say is, okay, you got your own establishment. You guys don't want to invite us, so fuck off. We'll do our own. And he was supposed to curate this exhibition for the other Chinese artists, but he submitted his own work, even though it was only supposed to curate it, but never mind. His exhibition was one of the most interesting because he photographed his middle finger at all the global icons. I mean, if he had been to Versailles, he would have also photographed his middle finger in Versailles Palace. So look at the top one, the White House. The one on the top right is Eiffel Tower, St. Mark's in Venice. Below that, the Forbidden City in China on the two middle slides, some obscure, ambiguous chapel in Italy in the one just below that. At the bottom left, that's Hong Kong. And on the bottom right, it's the Mona Lisa. His comment was, look, just because you've got a tourist attraction and you say we should be proud of it, it doesn't mean we should be, because you're just making it iconic to make money for yourselves. Your governments are dirty, you're stinking, You are using us to support your icon, which does not benefit the rakyat. It does not benefit the republic, so fuck off. This was a fantastic exhibition. And Ai Weiwei also said that creativity is the power to act. What did he mean? Creativity is the power to act. Is it true that creativity is the power to act? This statement has led us into a new age. It's called creative empowerment. We can laugh at people who say they're special because they've got blood. We can say, you are rich, you got a lot of money. Yeah, you can murder Mongolian models and still get away with it, but we hate you. When you die, you will burn in hell because God knows what you've done. But creative empowerment is different, you know. We can do anything because it's passion. Even if we fail, doesn't matter. We were doing our best to be creative, to give to society, to give to community. We are living in an age now where creativity has replaced blood and it has replaced money. Yeah. Now, it's rarely discussed that the three of these kinds of empowerment actually share the same dark parent. That parent is entitlement. Entitlement is when you feel you have the right to do whatever you want to do. With the royals, they got special blood, they can do whatever they want to do. They want to kill you, they can. After that, was got rid of, you got money. You got so much money, you can kill someone and no one can run after you. Look at Najib, same thing. But with creative entitlement, no one can come after you. You are special because you did it because you're creative, not because of blood, not because of money. This is the darkest, dirtiest thing that's happening in the world right now. And we're going to start by talking about two examples. One is the Makoko Floating School in Lagos, 2013 to 2016. It was done by this architect, Kunle Adeyemi. He proposed it because a friend of his, Noah Shemede, the principal of this school in a slum, in a lagoon in Makoko, Lagos, said that they ran out of space. So he designed a school that was a floating school for the floating village of Makoko. And it became so famous, he was invited to build a mock-up of it to float in the lagoon in the Venice Biennale in Italy. Yeah. So it won the Silver Bear Prize or whatever, what they call it. And it became very famous. Now, what is Makoko? Makoko is a slum of people from the heartland of Africa who are very, very poor and have come to the city to work because they can make more money. Same with Malaysia, same with China, same with any bloody country in the world. And because the city is too expensive to live in, they decided to build their slum, their settlement, their version of Kampong Baru in the lagoon, in water, because the water, no one has any rights of it. The government cannot kick them out. So they built what is called a floating village there. So Kunle Adeyemi decided, okay, floating village, floating school. So he designed a school and he got a very famous architecture photographer, Iwan Ban, to take these photographs. One, the school with the kampong in the background. Another one showing men chopping wood, as though they're chopping wood to make the school, but actually not. They're just chopping wood for firewood. And then children, school children in a boat being ferried to and from the school. And of course, a prototype, floating drums with a wooden deck, and these school children playing with the ball, dancing, celebrating the fact they are soon going to have a floating school. Yeah. Now, let's look at the diagram Adeyemi produced for in his website for the school. He's got 100 students plus teachers sandwiched with knowledge in between to produce a hamburger of exchange inside two triangles. Outcomes knowledge, which benefits a community of 100,000. So 100 hamburger, keluar 100,000. Very special, in and out. Legend, knowledge with some moving wheels inside the head, red line, you know, and then users, purple, knowledge, hamburger, come out, community, everyone also knowledge lah, very special. You might even say ele. And then you look at the triangle, one small triangle on top and one bigger triangle at the bottom. What is the triangle about? What does it have to do with knowledge, students, teachers, and community? Let's go to another diagram he produced. In his website, local Makoko technology, increasing tropical rainfall, increasing sea levels, plus global flotation technology equals derived solution. And then suddenly we realize, oh, Triangle is his project. And then the other triangle, the bigger one, is actually not a triangle. It is underneath the flotation device, you see? So local Makoko technology plus flotation technology equals derived solution. Very special, right? But something is wrong with this diagram. Can any of you point out what is wrong? Do you remember the two slides I showed you earlier? The first slide of the prototype with the kampong in the background, and the second slide with the school. Do you remember this? What is wrong with local Makoko technology when you see these two slides? Firstly, local Makoko technology does not show a space rocket roof. It's not a pointed roof. The roofs are all flat, okay? Look at the roofs, they're all flat. And secondly, local Makoko technology, it's not a floating village. There are all these columns. This is accurate. The top is wrong, the bottom is accurate. Because you can see all the columns here, yeah? So in actual fact, his diagram should have been like this. Local Makoko technology, increasing rainfall, increasing sea levels, but the roof should be flat. And this is local Makoko technology in the diagram. It's not floating. That is the global flotation. So his diagram should actually have been like this. Local Makoko technology, throw away the bottom because he's not using that. He's only using the top, which is not even local Makoko technology. Potong tampal equals contrived solution. The solution is not derived. He contrived it. Everything is global. The flotation technology is global. The roof is global. He didn't bother about the columns. So the solution is not derived. It's contrived. Bohong, okay? Anyway, another diagram showing the big triangle on top of the flotation device. Natural ventilation, except that with a roof here, the wind cannot actually blow through. It only blows to the ground floor. Okay, you leave the classrooms on top. There's a playground and green area. Except that you know that the green area is also total perbohongan. Green plants cannot grow underneath a structure because there's no daylight. There's only place for children to play. So they should have omitted all these green things, okay? But never mind. It got built. Wonderful. More photographs from A1 Ban from a drone showing the floating school out from the kampong. Cannot locate with the kampong, of course, you know, because it's special, istimewa. You have to float it away. You park the boats all around. It looks so special, like a market, except there's a market for knowledge. Wow. And then boats with a man standing there. It looks like it's really used. And of course, you got to take other photographs. You put fluorescent lights, make it look space age. And then, of course, Twitter and Instagram and Facebook to show the world that you are very space age. And then you rub shoulders also, you know. You go into Instagram, you show school children, you produce in lectures around the world, you float it in the Venice Biennale, and of course you get it published by architectural journals. This one is not an architectural journal. It is the Guardian of London. It's a bi-monthly or bi-weekly journal that is very, very well read, very respected. You might think differently after the end of this lecture, and with a very, very well-worded title, Inside Makoko, Danger and Ingenuity in the world's biggest floating slum. Firstly, it is not floating. And the reason why they are mixing the words danger with ingenuity is because they want to mix the idea of risk with intelligence. This is a very special project. So they're using words to hide everything about the project. And then you put your name with very other famous architects, Bjarke Ingels, to make yourself feel really good. Of course, you visit the world's most famous architect, Rem Koolhaas, take photograph with him, and then make a quote to make it seem you are already up there, you are iconic, as we all are with the people that you worship, yeah? This is the way all young architects, all students want to behave. They want to build their reputation. And the way they build their reputation is by looking for other people's reputation, with name, with face, with projects. So this is the final, one of the last photographs I'm going to show you of the project, Iwan Ban, remember that name. If you want to be famous, you pay 1/4 million ringgit to this man. He will photograph your projects and put it in these architecture journals for you to become famous. You don't have to do good work. But anyway, this is the project with the floating school, with the kampong in the background. 2 weeks after it won the Venice Biennale Silver Bear, it collapsed in a storm. The Guardian did not report this. No architectural website has reported this. They only reported it 2 years after the fact, after other people reported it first. So architecture journalism, architecture magazines, architecture websites lie to you even years after something has catastrophically failed. Thank God the principal realized something was very badly wrong. 1 week before it collapsed in a bad storm, the bad wind, he evacuated the entire school, so no children died in this accident. And of course, the architect, Kunle Adeyemi, he blamed them for, oh, you did not maintain it properly. But the truth is more dirty. What can you see is wrong with this school? Firstly, the roof is shaped like this. Where do you see this kind of a shape? It's usually a shape for the boat, except that it should be the other way around. Betul. When you make a roof the shape like a boat, but you turn it the other way, it begins to act like a boat sail. It catches wind. That is the reason why Makoko village is actually very flat. The roofs cannot be sticking up too high, because if they stick up so high, the wind will blow it away and everything will collapse. Did Kunle Adeyemi examine his context? No, he did not care. He did not give a shit. The other thing is, when you turn a boat, which is supposed to be this way, upside down, you have the flat part at the bottom and the hull of the boat, which gives stability, on top. Of course, it's going to flip over the other way. It is completely unstable. So this man, this architect, so-called architect, was only interested in doing what he wanted to do. He didn't bother to look at the context. He didn't care about education. He didn't try to understand that the reason why all of this kampong is very close together is because it works like an organism. That they are so poor, they can only afford very small pieces of timber. The only way they can stand up in any kind of wind condition is if they press very close to each other, so that all the ones behind will support the ones in front. It works like an organism. But Adeyemi did not bother to inspect this. He did not bother to research where the different students came from in the village. He did not bother to find out how they got to the existing school. He just wanted to produce a floating school because the word floating village was nice to use for floating school, and he produced a project which was completely flawed, and that's why it catastrophically failed. But never mind projects, internationally recognized and award-winning projects that fail. Let us look at other projects that do not fail, but have actually failed miserably. The High Line in New York. Are any of you familiar with this project? It is a park that was created on top of an elevated railway that has won multiple awards around the world and still continues to win awards today. It was finished in started and finished in 1991. What is the High Line? Well, it started as the elevated railway. This was what New York was like in the 30s. And this is the part of the meat packing industry, you know, the abattoirs, the slaughterhouse where they have cows and chickens and pigs. And the big port was there, so they were importing meat, exporting some meat. But this whole area of Chelsea, where the High Line is located, was about the meat packing industry, where they slaughtered animals and they froze them and they packed the meat in big crates and sent it all around the country. Now, this part of New York was very dangerous because there were 5 different kinds of traffic. There was a railway system for the meat packing. There were horses and carriages. There were cars. There were small bicycles, and there were people. It was so bad that between 12th and 14th Avenue, it was called Death Avenue because 6 people died every day, run down by a horse or by a car or by a train. So someone had a great idea to elevate the railway line, to alleviate all the traffic at the bottom. So one of the world's biggest infrastructural projects began at the time, and it went on and on. When it was finished, it was a marvel of technology. Behind, with the New York City skyline, the trains started at the 34th station yards. From the huge yards, they were elevated on railway tracks. They came around the side that is facing south. One of it went to the post office. The other one turned the corner and ran all the way down New York City. You can see running all the way down New York City. It ran into buildings, came out of buildings, ran right down to the St. John's Landing elevated train station as well. And it did not only serve the meatpacking industry, but normal New Yorker citizens used it for public transport to get away from the street. So it was an incredible success. But over the years, as the meatpacking industry slowly moved out of New York, it fell into disrepair. the part of the elevated railway from Gansford Street all the way down to St. John's Landing stopped being used, it was demolished. And from 34th Street down to Gansford Street, it was left abandoned. And this wild grass, this dead grass, golden grass grew during summer. During winter, it was covered with snow. It became a bit desolate. Chelsea back then, during the time of the abandonment of the elevated railway, was like this. They had record stores, second-hand record stores. They had gasoline alley where you can have a car wash. They had gift card stores, florist shops. They had mom and pop stores where you could have cheap food, cheap pizza. You could get your shoes repaired or your keys made. They had grocery areas. You could buy everything was very affordable, very cheap. And most importantly, they had affordable housing. The cooperative housing began in New York, yeah? And this is where you could live very, very cheaply and share a lot of facilities and find easy way to get to work because you're already living downtown, okay? This is where all of that diversity existed. The important thing is this district of Chelsea had more diversity than almost every other part of New York because all kinds of people lived there. They had art, they had motor car shops, they had grease, they had fine dining, they had everything, yeah? The original elevated railway started at the top here. This is the 34th Station Yards. That is on St. John's Landing. And it ran almost 2 miles all the way down. Later, it was demolished right up to Gansford Street. And that is still 1.6 kilometers long, yeah? So what is the High Line? These two guys, Robert Hammond, a recent Princeton graduate, and Joshua David, a part-time Hollywood actor, moved into Chelsea. They liked it so much. Oh, ini diversity, ya. Ini banyak cantik. It is very exciting to be there. There's a lot of life. We want to be a part of that. So they moved in and they started a Facebook group called the Friends of High Line to save the High Line. Why? Because there was some discussion that this thing would be demolished and big buildings would be built there. So, we cannot have big buildings. We need to put a park. So they got the services of field operations, the landscape architect, and the architect, New York architect, Dillis, Scofidio, and Renfro, to design a park on top of the existing structure of the elevated railway. And that's what they call the High Line, okay? And it ran from where all the existing structure was. The top is all new, the bottom is old. All the way from 34th Station, all the way down through the buildings. Of course, you got some stops at the 30th Street Post Office here, 23rd, some additional access points on 26th, 20th, and 17th, all the way to Gansford Street, yeah? So they ripped up all that stuff that was on top and they laid their beautiful granite walkway. They had the elevator, the railway tracks removed and replaced. And this is what it looks like today. High Line project. A lot of bushes, many different colored flowers, some railway tracks, lookout points, a lot of people there. Cantik, yeah? Wow, look at that. But something is a bit troubling when you look at this. I mean, okay, the photographs are all different, but they're all different of exactly the same thing. I mean, you look at all this inside, bushes, flowers, green people. Bushes, flowers, green people. Bushes, flowers, green people. Bushes, flowers, green people. Oh, bushes, flowers, green people, and elevated walkway. Okay, maybe same walkway, yeah? Now, I'm going to show you a series of photographs of what the elevated railway line was about before the High Line project was put there as a park, okay? This is what it looked like before the High Line project. This is the corner as you're turning on 34th Street train station yards. As you turn around the corner and you look back, this is towards the beginning of the middle of summer. In the early morning, you see the Hudson River. This is the 34th Station Yards. You see the railway tracks with the flowers and the green. You turn the corner, look at that. This is in the late summer. Everything is burnt, golden. And you're turning the corner into that long avenue that takes you south to Gansford Street. Look at that. As you turn the corner, you come to a forest of these crazy trees that have taken over the elevated railway. You pass that, you get further down, you see all the way down. And you see the railway tracks of this disappearing in the morning mist. Wildflowers. Further along on the side, you see dead ends where the train would be parked, and then you see more burnt grass. And other areas are just covered with wildflowers. Not so much burnt grass, but just poppies and wildflowers. The detail, the biodiversity you had on the elevated railway was unbelievable. You had so many different species of plants and flowers, it's almost hard to imagine. This is an evening in summer, going back to the 34th train yards, a signal box nested amongst wild growing plants going down, that's looking south. This is coming towards autumn. In the morning, the mist, and almost psychedelic, yeah, the colors. Some of the photographs, you don't even know you're in New York. It was so remarkable. You see, there was this part of New York was a very, very rare and relatively unknown thing. It was only known to the residents of Chelsea. They knew about it because, well, it was right in the middle of the neighborhood. Everywhere with the burnt grass, with the museum almost of the railway line, yeah? In fall, winter, spring, and summer, there was this changing environment of the elevated railway. You see, this part of New York was a very special thing. It was an ecological system, an urban ecological system, the likes of which has never been seen anywhere in the world before. To have this kind of biodiversity in the middle of one of the densest, most urbanized, populated cities in the world was a freak of nature. And yet it existed. It was a unique slice of what New York was. Sure, there were trees, branches that fell down once in a while, but you also get this in any jungle in the world. And do you remember this photograph I showed you earlier in winter? You see all these footsteps here. Yes, the elevated railway was used before the project already. It was used by residents to take shortcuts. It was used by residents to have parties and barbecues because only they knew how to get on top of it. It was used by their community of Chelsea. And what did they do? The architects and the landscape architect tore up every single bit of that wilderness. They destroyed everything of that to plant, their own wilderness. Nature, cantik, nature mesti, nature banyak penting, but as long as we choose what nature it is. Natural nature, screw that, fuck that, we don't care. We want our nature. So we curate our own kind of nature, we pick our flowers, we tear out all the flowers that God put there to put our own flowers. And that's why the High Line looks the same wherever you go. It looks the same from one end all the way to the other. In sunshine and in rain, it is green, flowers, people. Green, flowers, people. Some parts, okay, we preserve the existing railway line. See, this is the original, macam like a kubur, like a graveyard. Well, who killed it? The same people who made this graveyard made it a graveyard. They killed the original landscape that was there. And then they have a boardwalk to show people taking photographs of a graveyard which they created. So who are the murderers? And there's something interesting. It is not only boardwalk, people, green, and flowers. There are also seats along the side where you can sit down to look at the green, flowers, and the people walk by. Okay? But it doesn't matter whether it is all the way down one end or all the way up the other, or further off than that, or under shade reading newspapers or sketching drawings or whatever, eating your lunch. All of these people have the same thing in common. Do you know what it is? See, over here, there's some water feature, All of these people have the same thing in common. If you look at the bottom photograph on the left or the right, this is what it looks like at 10 o'clock every morning, and it's completely deserted. Why? because tourists only wake up after 10:30. These are all tourists. The locals of Chelsea, of New York, never mind Chelsea, of the whole Manhattan Island, they hate this project because it is so crowded with viral tourism, they do not want to go there anymore. There are more than 3,600 visitors to this filthy, bloody High Line every bloody day. That is what all these people have in common. They are not locals. They are all tourists, okay? Now let's go down to the ground level to look at what has happened to Chelsea, yeah? Do you remember? Oh, sorry. Firstly, graffiti. I don't know if any of you know, but Chelsea in New York was the birthplace of graffiti, okay? This is the kind of graffiti that Chelsea was known for, that New York was known for. It was the heaven of graffiti. Leonard Nimoy, you can see, you know, Einstein over here begging, telling you love is the answer. Look at these colors. All of that has been thrown out and replaced by this graffiti along the High Line. Oh, graffiti is nice as long as we get to choose our kind of graffiti. And all these are famous graffiti artists from around the world invited to New York to stick their brand of curated graffiti on the walls. A lot of this graffiti is now gone. But there is a commercial graffiti, you know? Wow, cantik, yeah? You remember the earlier slide I showed you of all that diversity? You remember the word? Don't forget this word, diversity. It is very important because I'm going to talk to you a bit about diversity later as well. The amazing mom and pop shops, the cheap food, the cheap groceries, the gift shops, the gift card shops, the florists, the affordable housing, the record store, this is gone. It's now replaced by things like this, by brand names like Google, like Zaha Hadid, like Bjarke Ingels, like Daniel Liebshin and Barney's. Shops that you can't afford to go in even if you have the money. Yeah, because all the property prices in the area have risen so high that none of these people, none of the diversity is allowed to be there anymore. They have to move out. They cannot afford it. And now everything is homogenized by viral tourism and viral tourist money. Yeah. Yeah, of course, the architects have something to do. Landscape, some benches. Yeah, signage. Wow, signage. Okay, satu ulala di bawah dan dia, and then whatever. You know, we have our jobs. Wonderful. Ah, details also. Wonderful. The bench comes out, you know, from the ground. Cantik, yeah. Woo! And the destruction goes on. Phase 2 and phase 3 are under construction now. This is a perspective of phase 2. Okay, so the High Line project has not ended. They're still destroying Chelsea, okay? Now I want to show you a slide. This was a three-dimensional perspective. They showed the city and the board of stockholders to convince them that they should do this project. This is what the Highland is going to be. Now I don't even remember a slide earlier. They didn't do anything, you know. They just superimposed their stupid deck on top of the existing biodiversity that was there. So they persuaded a whole city to approve and support a project that was actually already there, serving the community who originally lived there. But that community is not there anymore. It's now replaced by people who can afford only things like this. It's now homogenized by people who don't actually live there, but who have bought things to rent out for tourists to stay and to go viral over. Some comments from the Villager. This is a bi-weekly publication of Chelsea. Look at Hess. He says they've been deceived, that the park donors were upset that it's like a mandatory tax. I think it should be people's choice. I'd rather give my money to a soup kitchen than to pay for artfully arranged grass. And then the argument will only raise property values for those in the district. He does not find it a compelling enough selling point. My greatest value is not the value of my property going up. It is about diversity. The people who live there in the High Line in Chelsea because of the affordability and the diversity that came with that affordability. The moment you have diversity, it means you've got rich people and poor people. You've got all kinds of things happening of all different races, all different sizes, all different shapes and backgrounds. And when you've got that kind of a mix, you have affordability. Now, this red rectangle misses out the most important point. We always talk about doing something creative because it creates value. Now, what kind of value is being created? If you are a resident, you only benefit from that created value when you sell your property and you move out, when you stop becoming a resident. Now, I don't know if any of you can understand how twisted this is, that you only benefit from the value as a resident when you stop becoming a resident. It's disgusting, isn't it? Now we move on finally to Mr. Ai Weiwei, resident artist, Beijing, 1957, and still alive. He actually made himself very famous in 2000 by dropping a priceless Chinese pot. His complaint was about the Chinese government. You say we should take care of our antiquities, of our culture, but you are not taking care of it yourself. So I'm going to show you what I think of your attitude. He dropped the pot and smashed it in these 3 famous photographs. And of course, Western culture loved it. Wow, this is art. Never mind that this supposed artist is using destruction as his calling card for art, yeah? Never mind. It's still, wow, whatever. The West loves this shit. And then he had this wonderful, very relevant, this is actually his best work, where he was relevantly saying, you icons, you stink, because you are not actually benefiting the people. You're only creating jobs that people do not want to do, which is in the dirty tourist industry, while the rich people are making most of the money. So this was a very good thing. But what did he do? What did he do after that? He moved on to other things. Bad earthquake in China. He started calling the government every day, pestering them. Oh, who died? How many? What are the names? Of course, the government doesn't know. 70,000 people died. Most of them were school children. So after a while, they stopped answering his phone calls because they themselves did not know the answer to the question. It was a natural disaster, a national disaster. So what does Ai Weiwei do? He buys 30,000 school bags and goes to Berlin, where he's invited to produce art, so-called art, and he sticks all the school bags on the wall to criticize the Chinese government for not giving him information that they themselves did not know. And this was a phrase in Chinese of a Chinese mother lamenting the loss of a daughter. Oh, my poor daughter did not even grow old enough to understand what life was going to be about. So this is what Ai Weiwei is doing after that. And then he had an exhibition in the Great Turbine Hall of the Tate Modern in London, where he had millions of tiny seeds made in clay, hand-painted, hand-fired by a village in China that was in danger of losing its pottery craft. And he distributed all these seeds in the Turbine Hall to show the diversity of China. Each one of these seeds is unique. Like China, every Chinese person is unique with a unique face, a unique thumbprint, a unique character. But of course, you don't see it because, you know, there's so many billions, 1.6 billion. You don't, the sunflower seeds were like China, you see? Except that 3 days after the exhibition, it was closed. Everyone was playing in it. It was creating so much dust that the Ministry of Health declared it a health hazard. So they closed it off. Visitors could only see it from far away, and you could only see the Chinese people from far away. Of course, none of the people who were making the seeds were brought by Ai Weiwei to see their work. So they all still remain anonymous, okay? All that work was still bathed in anonymity. So much for China, for Ai Weiwei trying to bring awareness to the individuality of the Chinese people. And then in 2016, he was invited in by a Florida gallery to do a retrospective of his work. So he had a series of Chinese priceless pots. We don't really know whether they're priceless or not, but he painted them in garish colors. And behind, he had these 3 photographs of his original famous artwork, you know? And what happened? A Florida artist came to the exhibition, saw the photographs, picked up one of Ai Weiwei's pots and dropped it on the ground. And he said he thought that the photographs were the instruction to destroy one of the pots. And his thing was, he was doing what Ai Weiwei did 20 years ago. he was protesting against the institution of the gallery because they were exhibiting more works from foreign international artists than local Florida artists. And he said, this is what I think of what you're doing. So he broke the pot. He basically did what Ai Weiwei did 16 years ago. So what did Ai Weiwei say? He said, well, he deserves to be in jail. He should not go around destroying other people's property. Yeah, this is Ai Weiwei's own words. Never mind the fact that 16 years ago, Ai Weiwei was destroying the property of the Chinese people. Oh, he's doing more things now. He's doing a lot of blow-up dolls showing the refugee crisis. Yeah, many people, big scale, blow-up dolls, put into a big boat, so you don't even see their faces. They're all turning to face each other, you know, like a sunflower seed. And then clothes, which he claims are refugee clothes, put on stacks as though it's like a department store, and then life jackets wrapping columns of the Berlin concert house in. This man also owns a company called Fake Design. Fake Design is responsible for producing the master plans of ghost cities all over Mongolia. And when he doesn't pay his taxes, he complains the government is victimizing him, and he gets other normal Chinese people to throw money over his garden wall, which he accepts to pay his dirty fines. This is the kind of man Ai Weiwei is. His most recent art is based on this API photograph of a dead 5-year-old Syrian refugee child whose name was Alan Turki. His body was washed up on a Turkish beach, and it was taken by API network and distributed around the world to show everyone the horrors of what is happening in Syria. Yeah? What did Ai Weiwei do? He lay down on a first world beach in exactly the same position as Alan Turki, took a black-white photograph to show the world the horrors of what is happening in Syria. Never mind the fact that Alan Turki's photograph came first. So at this point, you got to ask the question, is Ai Weiwei using his art to bring awareness to the horrors of the human condition around the world? Or is he using the horrors of the human condition around the world to bring global awareness to his filthy art? Ai Weiwei. Very relevant, yes? Very relevant in the year 2000, where he pointed his middle finger up to the global icons. He does not realize he has become like one of the icons. He has become iconic. So I sent him a Christmas card a few years ago, superimposing his own middle finger in his own face, because he has become like the exact thing he relevantly criticized 20 years ago. Ai Weiwei once said, creativity is the power to act. He was wrong, because it is not about acting. When you act without thinking, like Mr. Ng Sek San, like Najib, like people that are supposed to be our leaders in Malaysia, you start producing things that do not benefit any of your communities, but you force them out. Creativity is actually the power of relevance. Relevance not to what you want to do, but relevance to your immediate context, to the people who actually live around your projects, to the people who will suffer the most if your project goes wrong, whether it's school children in a floating school, or whether it's people living along the side of an elevated highway, or living on either side of a so-called community garden. They suffer the most when your project goes wrong. But we need to ask, what is power? What is power in this equation? Power is the service of responsibility ahead of reputation. We all know in Malaysia, reputasi is so bloody fucking important. Nothing is more important than your bloody reputation. The Chinese will say, the Indians will say, the bloody Malays, all of you, all of the bloody rakyat will say reputation is important. And that's why we go to school, to study reputation, how we build our reputation, how we design something that the whole world can iconize and then worship us and follow us like idiots on Facebook. Is this true? Or is responsibility more important? Most of us will not have the opportunity to design our famous garden palaces like King Louis XIV. Very few of us will be in the position of André Lenotre, his landscape architect, to build these garden palaces. But inside each one of us, we have our own private Versailles. We have our own dirty floating schools. We have our own so-called public space of public gardens and public parks and community gardens and kebun-kebun bangsas and green lane bicycle lanes. And we all have to do this because we want to bring global awareness to the bad things which are happening around the world. But in actual fact, we are no different than Ai Weiwei, who only does what he does to make the world see more of his dirty art. And that is the relationship between responsibility and reputation. Architecture schools teach you to build your reputation, giving absolutely no regard for responsibility. This is wrong. UITM is no different from UTM. It's no different from it's no different from NUS in Singapore, Harvard University, or MIT, or the Architectural Association, because they all teach the same, they indoctrinate you with the same dirty principles of building your reputation. Maybe we can have some questions and answers now. I'll stop sharing.
Thank you, Mr. Kevin, for that interesting sharing. So I think we still have some time, so we can move on to a short Q&A session with the participant. So if any one of you want to ask any question, feel free to just open up your mic, introduce yourself, and ask away.
Don't be shy.
Don't be shy. You can also type it in the chat box, and I will read it out. So, anyone?
Maybe you're so shocked you don't know what to say. You see, in school, they show you all these famous projects. They show you all these famous projects because they want you to become like those people who did famous projects. This is all about reputasi. It's not about reputation. It's not about responsibility. And if you actually analyze these projects in relationship to their specific context, you will realize very, very few of them. 98% of them are actually detrimental and negative for the people that they claim to be helping. They are actually not doing any of the things they say they're doing. Even the ones that are winning awards around the world. Because the juries that give these awards themselves are ignorant and indoctrinated. They do not understand what is good because they do not study the project. They just think, they just look at the project, see how beautiful it is, like a Miss Universe competition. Mata cantik, rambut panjang, kaki panjang, tetek besar, buntut ketat, okay, first prize. So we laugh at Miss Universe competition, but we do exactly the same rubbish in architecture. But we have not been taught this properly in school because our teachers themselves do not know this. Because their teachers were like them, teaching their students the wrong thing. Something else I have to tell you before you any more questions. This is very important. I wanted to come today, even though I have some of my Malay students from University Malaya, my previous Malay students, they said, hey, you should not go to UITM. Do you know they do not accept students from other race? They do not accept Chinese or Indian students. You should not go and lecture there. And I said, you are silly. It is the more important reason why I go and lecture at UITM. Because remember the comment I made earlier about diversity? Diversity is the most important thing in your life. Whether it is a city, whether it is a kampong, whether it is in your own mind. How diversely you can absorb knowledge and think is very important. So you have all tried to make a petition to make UITM open to everyone because you are suffering without the diversity. When you have diversity in your school, you will meet other people of many different other kinds of backgrounds. You will learn so much more about the world. This is why it is so important for me to lecture you today, because I feel that you are not getting, students who go to UITM are not getting the best education that they can get because of the homogeneity in UITM. So do take this with a good spirit to understand what diversity is and how important it is. And today I'm here to help you understand a bit of that diversity. I don't care whether I'm Malay, Chinese, or Indian. I don't care whether you're Malay, Chinese, or Indian. You're all human beings. And UITM should begin to understand and respect that, not for the other races, but for the students in UITM. Do you understand my reasoning? Okay, maybe you can ask questions now if you have questions to ask.
So I think Mr. Kevin, there's some question in the chat box.
Oh, chat. Okay, look at the
section.
chat. Okay, I can read from the chat.
Okay.
First, saya rasa dia perlu tekan gambar macam petak. What? Oh, okay, there's a bit before. Sorry. Okay, Shabina, eye-catching, eye-opening. I rather it be a mind-opening talk, not so eye-catching, you know, because when you use only your eye, you only tengok cantik atau tak cantik, handsome atau tak handsome. This is not what life is about. It's about character, okay? You see beautiful girl, you see nice-looking guy, you talk with them 5 minutes, ayah, semua otak, semua bodoh. You can't talk with them anymore for the rest of the night. This is architecture too. You should be able to have a conversation with someone for a whole night, for 5 whole nights. If it's only beauty, you cannot have this, yeah? Okay, Diana. Hi, everyone. My name is Diana. I was one of your students at UM. Oh, hello, Diana. How do you define responsibility over the time as one project might become iconic with or without the intention? It is not a gray area, Diana. When you study a project, if you're talking about the High Line, it was already known how high the property prices would go. It would have been better if they had not done any project at all, because the property that the High Line sat on was state property. Anyone privately wanting to develop something there would have tremendous problems. Who has the right? It was not private property. So it would have taken decades to develop privately. But when you remove the highlight and say it's a public project, you can do it in 1 year. And overnight, every property price in the whole of the district suddenly goes 1,000%. It is the worst thing that you can possibly do to any kind of neighborhood, is to do this kind of project. Some people say, oh, you don't make it a park, then other people will build big buildings. It'll be even worse. Hello? If they wanted to do that, it would have taken more than 20 or 30 years because, like I said, it was not private property. So it would have been better if the project was not made as a park, because the moment it was made as a park, it is open to the whole world to visit as viral tourists. The project was not designed to benefit the kampong of Chelsea. It was designed to promote viral tourism, okay? And it was known because the stakeholders, together with the architects, they invested in properties on either side of it for very cheap. And when the project was finished, they sold it for millions of US dollars. A gas station was sold for 2 million before. After the project, it was sold for more than 100 million US dollars. Okay? So don't tell me that we do not know these things happen, that you do not anticipate what a project can do, that over time, the use can change. That project was not designed for the community of Chelsea. It was designed for global viral tourism, like almost any other project that pretends to be for community. Why do I say this? Because like the floating school, the architect did not give a shit to examine their local context. They do not do any research. The Kebun Bangsa, they did not give a shit about the people living there. Not a single one of the residents knew that that project was going to be built. And if you don't believe me, You can go to the new kabuns. They've all been shut down by DBKL. Why? Because the people in Kampung, not Pandan, Kampung Kerinci, all the people in Kampung Kerinci said, we do not want this kabun in our area. It is not benefiting us. That's why Mr. Ng is so angry now. Look at the bicycle blue lane in KL. Wow, creative, right? Promote bicycle, healthy, bagus, yeah? It is not bagus. Hello? Who are the people who use that blue lane? Every day of the week, they are only migrant workers, okay? 1, 2 bicycles every week. The only time they're used by people riding expensive, fancy bicycles with colorful clothing is during the weekend or once a month when they close downtown, in which case you don't even need a blue lane. There are no cars. So that blue lane was designed by hobbyists. Did they care about the existing users of the road in KL? No. There's hardly any room to put a blue lane, but they squeeze the bloody blue lane in. If there's no room on the road for the blue lane goes onto the sidewalk. There's no place for the pedestrian. If there's no place on the sidewalk, it goes down the handicap ramp. There's no place for handicapped people. Do you understand? This is why I'm so sorry. I sound very angry, but I'm not angry with you. I'm just angry with all these so-called creative people who tell you lies, who say, oh, this is a social community project. Actually, this is not about response. This is only for your bloody reputation. Hello. It will be better to make classes, learn how to ride a bicycle on the road. Because the moment you put 2 wheels on your body on a road in Malaysia, you are taking your life into your own hands. But they do not want to do this. Kenapa? Because to teach you how to ride a bicycle, you cannot photograph and make Facebook cantik-cantik. You got blue lane. Wow, blue lane, boleh photograph. Progress. We got something to show you. Blue lane. We are painting the blue lane. Bicycle, motorcycle and car and bus cannot go in blue lane. The only reason why it was a project existed was so people can take photographs to put in Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. Okay? Like most of us, why do you normally do things now? A lot of time, so you can take a photograph. Ini saya punya makan pagi, ini saya makan tengah hari, ini saya makan malam. You're so lonely if you don't show the whole world what you're doing, yeah? The same behavior you do in your daily life extends into your work. Stop behaving like an idiot, okay? Sorry, I don't mean to say you all are, but we all are normal. We are human beings. We all behave the same way, right? Treat the special things you do with more privacy. Share it only with your best friends, not with the whole world. And then every 5 minutes, check. Oh, wow, berapa like, berapa suka. And then kalau tak ada response, wah, panic, people don't like me. My post not so good enough. I need to make a better post next time, This is bodoh, You know why? Even Facebook calls you a follower, You want to follow someone, oh, you follow lah, and then you become follower, Is it good to be a follower? It's bodoh. You know why? Because you do not know if you are capable of leading until you choose not to follow. And Facebook is so bodoh, it even says, hey, if you want to follow, you can call yourself a follower, and then you feel so proud. Wow, sekarang saya pengikut, saya am a follower, I'm so happy, But this is bodoh, isn't it? Get rid of following anyone or anything because you do not know if you can lead until you choose not to follow, okay? Okay, next question, sorry. How do you implement responsibility in your design project? I first examine the context. Even if it is a house for a client, I look next door. If I build a house like this, is it going to catch on my neighbor? Okay? I did a project once that was terrible. I only focused on my client. So I gave him a very good view. But I gave him such a good view, I blocked the view of the neighbor next to him. Forever, he could not have a good view anymore because I only focus on my client. This is not good architecture. This is not responsible design. Yeah? If you want to look at responsible design, it is not only your client, but it is the community around the site of your client. Yeah? So the context is the most important. The smallest thing about the context. All the different stakeholders who are stakeholders not because they're investing in your project, They're stakeholders because your project is in the middle of their community, okay? So we use the word stakeholder in completely the wrong way. In Malaysia, a stakeholder are people who have money invested and they can say whether they like or not. I don't give a shit whether you have money or not. To me, the most important thing is whether my actions are causing you harm. Because that is the way of morality. It is the way of every good religion in the world, including Islam. You tell me in Islam, oh, stakeholder, yalah, dia yang ada duit lah. No such thing. Yeah. Okay, next question. Thank you for the session. What does it mean that we should reject fame totally? Okay. Or how do you suggest to be more responsible? You see, if you are trying to become famous, when you die, you'll immediately go to hell. I can tell you this. I'm not God, but I know this. Because when you only target fame, you ignore how you get there. You will only aim for that. But if you try to think about responsibility more, about the actual community, about the actual people living right where you are thinking about putting your project, you will naturally become famous. You do not need to worry about it. People will know. Maybe not the whole world, but the people on either side of your project, they will look at it and go, wah, dia perasaan, saya punya perasaan. Dia design as though they are living in my house. They will love you because they know you were thinking about them. If you really want to do good work, try not to become famous. Because if you're famous, you have to check yourself every day. It's very difficult. There's a Sufi proverb. I'm not sure if you know. In Islam, in Sufism, there's a proverb that goes, if you want to destroy a man, praise him. Do you know of this? It is exactly what I'm saying, but it says it even more accurately and even more beautifully. Praise. It's supposed to be a wonderful thing to praise someone and destroy. It is the worst thing you can do to someone, but it's so true. Let me explain why. The moment you know people are looking at you, it changes the way you do it. How do I know this? Think about it. There's this guy or this girl in school you really like so much. You want to meet them, but you're too scared. You see, takut. And suddenly, out of some amazing fortune, you are able to get a date with them. Okay? Wow. 3 months you've been waiting, suddenly you got date, The day before of the date, you are going to change how you look. You will try to look as good as you possibly can. Betul. New hairdo lah, bau niya bagus. You will bathe 5 times. You will make yourself so unusually beautiful or handsome because you want to make a good impression. Betul? Yeah? Even the way you talk. You try to talk about things you think they like. You are not going to behave like yourself. You're not even going to look like yourself. You go Sunday morning market with your mother, you're going to look the same way. No way, man. You go to a Sunday market with your mother, you look like shit. You just woke up, rambut macam hutan, baunya macam ui. I just came from bed. You don't care, right? And then talk to your mother also. You can be rude. It's your mother. But this is who you really are, okay? If you think you can behave like this with another human being whom you've never met, whom you like so much, you do exactly the same thing with your project. You are not honest. You will be on your best behavior. You will say things you never say before. You'll be incredibly polite and very, very chivalrous. You will not behave the way you normally are. You will not behave like the way you are with your mother. And this is what happens in architectural work too. It changes the way you do it when you know people are looking at you. When you know you have an audience. You don't even have to look at architectural work. Just look at Facebook. Make a post. Tengoklah berapa orang suka. You're already noticing. Who is noticing you? Read your Quran. The Quran talks about this. If you notice people are noticing you, you will feel proud. Your pride will destroy your behavior. It makes you change the honesty in how you behave. Okay? So you don't have to avoid fame. All you need to do is behave responsibility and you will naturally avoid fame already. Yeah? Okay. I want to ask, how can we do our part as an individual in architecture for the community rather than designing iconic space. When you first graduate, you have no choice really. You will work for a firm or for someone. They will ask you to do something. You just have to do it. Okay? I'm not saying you have to be like a Superman, super champion, like some guardian of the galaxy the moment you graduate. Okay? It's very difficult. But know what you are doing and make sure you always be honest with yourself to know, okay, that one I did something bad. Let's see if I can do something better next time. But you have to learn in order to know how to become more experienced to make the right decisions. It is very hard to do that when you are just graduated. But just keep my words in mind so that as you start maturing in life, to start getting older and older, you will know then what decisions to make and how to still earn a living without selling your soul. Okay? Second question, how to avoid pretension in design. Noble intention is not enough, Diana. A lot of us have noble intentions. We want to do things that will be betterment to society. But the intention is not enough because even the Kebun Bangsa tried to do that. Okay, look, even Najib, I believe even Najib, he actually believed he was doing good for Malaysia. He gave all the billions to this Chinaman, Jolo, to invest so that through the investment, we could get more profit to Malaysia. Okay, never mind, the rich rulers take a bit more, but it can still be distributed to more Malaysians. So even he thought he was doing good things for Malaysia. So good intention is not enough because if you do not understand what you're actually doing, it is completely bad. Okay? So the only way you can deal with pretension is to constantly look at your own soul, your own heart. Hey, I say this is for community. Did I actually examine that community? Every single person in that community. If it is, of course, a commercial project for a very rich client, it's very difficult to do this. You are just there to do the project, to make some money so that you can feed your family. No one is complaining. Just be honest with yourself. It is more important to be honest with yourself than to make what everyone says is the right moral decision. In life, it is full of compromise. It is very difficult to make the right moral decision that God will approve of every time. The most important thing is not the decision that you make, but your honesty about that decision. If you murdered a Mongolian model, you say you murdered a Mongolian model. If you did it because of money, you say you did it because of money. If you did it because you were more interested in how many people like you for your reputation, then just say, ya, saya did it, saya buat ini sebab saya nak reputasi. Okay? What are your opinions on architectural trends on the rise? Brutalism, organic, mimic nature. All these trends are disliked now, but buildings stay up. Can this be avoided? Okay. I've got two answers to this. Firstly, I do not give a shit about opinion or viewpoint. Why? Let me find something to show you why. Can all of you see this? Okay. Now, this is your viewpoint, right? Saya punya viewpoint di belakang. This is your viewpoint. It is your opinion. My opinion is at the back. Who is right and who is wrong? Ada salah dan ada betul. Ada. So a viewpoint, an opinion is stupid. It's ignorant because I shift this a bit, suddenly, your viewpoint sudah tukar, ya. Saya viewpoint juga sudah tukar. I do this, suddenly, oh my God, your viewpoint tukar lagi satu kali. My viewpoint tukar lagi satu kali. In fact, I have to look at this at multiple viewpoints over maybe 5 minutes to study it very carefully. And suddenly, I understand what it is because not of one viewpoint, not of two viewpoints, not of three viewpoints, but of so many viewpoints, I cannot even count. And not only that, I have to see the relationship between the different viewpoints. Betul. The viewpoint is not important. The relationship of the viewpoint is. Okay? So whenever someone asks you for your opinion, you tell them go to hell. I don't give a shit about your opinion, but I also didn't give a shit about my opinion. I only care about so many opinions, firstly, and more importantly, to understand the relationship between the opinions. Only then can you understand truth. And God says the most important thing is to understand truth. And you know it when it's the truth. And you know it when it's just a single viewpoint. Okay, that's the first one. After that, what is on architectural trends? Okay, architectural trends are there. They are only single viewpoints. Sekarang brutalism, esok modern, esok traditional, esok, you see? So this is why trends are stupid, because they only focus on viewpoints. And the worst thing about these viewpoints is they only focus on the form of the viewpoint, on the aesthetic of the viewpoint. So when we talk about brutalism, we're not actually talking about the effects of brutalism. We're not talking about how it developed, what its impact is on context, on society, or the neighbors, or the community. We only look at it and we go, ya, brutal lah. Concrete, tengok banyak buruk, brutal lah. Traditional, kampung house lah. Rumah kampung Melayu. It's only the style, aesthetic. It is only a Miss Universe competition. This is bodoh. So do not follow trends, because firstly, they're only about viewpoints. And secondly, they're only about the worst kind of viewpoint, about what something looks like. Cantik atau buruk. Okay? So don't follow trends, because if you follow trend, you're just a follower. Okay, next one. Yes, and we are angry too. Thank you. Okay, good. Jesse, how do I know if we are still staying relevant when the majority of others tells us otherwise? Okay. The majority is the majority because most people do not think well. It's called the lowest common denominator. Why is Justin Bieber so popular? Because most of the people like it. He's commercial. Britney Spears, her music isn't very, very critical music, you know. Justin Bieber too, the music, but it's fun to listen to. And fun, non-critical, commercial is always very popular. So the popular vote always wins. The critical thing rarely is supported. So the majority will always like the thing that is easy to like. That's why people like the Twin Towers. That's why people like the bicycle blue lane, even though they don't understand it, what it's about, even though they don't use it, even they don't understand what the context is or who the community actually is. The popular thing is very easy to like because we do not need to think about it. We hear the word community, we already like it because community is supposed to be good. Betul. So the only way to be sure of something being relevant is to ask difficult questions about it. It used the word community. What are they referring to when they say community? Is it true? Is it false? And whenever you say something that is negative, everyone will hate you. Look at me. Most people in the Klang Valley hate me. The architects hate me. International architects hate me because I'm always criticizing them or criticizing their so-called efforts at creativity, their special garden palaces, their Versailles, their floating schools, the highlight projects, right? So the moment you are thinking with relevance, you will be hated by most people. Trust me. If you're not capable of taking this and thinking independently, then maybe you are more of a follower than a leader, which is also okay. But make sure you follow the right people. The ones who are not liked by most people. Okay? And to stay relevant, you have to ask very, very difficult questions. It is not easy, and you get better at it the more you ask it, the earlier in life. So by the time you get to my age, you know the things that I know now at the age of 36. You don't have to wait to 57, okay? I'm trying to get you a jump start. Okay. My quest, is there any project that successfully focused on local or community that we can look to? Not easy. I will try to study and I'll try to research which ones actually do this. And if I can think of a few very, very good projects, I will text Hakim, okay? And Hakim will let you know, okay? Aliaf, Daniel, in your opinion, okay, not my opinion, okay? Once again, we go back to no opinion, yeah? What is something that Malaysia really needs right now? Something that design could contribute to the nation. Wow. We need good leaders. Our leaders are failing us. Our creative leaders are failing us. Our business leaders are failing us. Our political leaders are failing us. We need good leaders. I don't think the problem in Malaysia, what Malaysia needs most now, is architecture. Architecture is secondary in a way. So if your question is architectural, then I would say, look at your immediate neighbor. Look at the neighborhood you're living in and ask relevant questions about problems. Don't ask what they need. Ask what the problems are first. Understand a problem. Understand a problem before developing a solution. But problem is most of us are only looking for solutions. So your question is to actually, for me to tell you what solution you can use. I would be the worst kind of leader if I told you a solution. Oh, do a kebun, whatever neighborhood you live in lah. That will be the answer. No. Because you cannot have a solution, you cannot have an answer unless you have a problem or a question. You cannot have a problem or a question unless you investigate very, very intimately what your neighborhood or community needs. Okay? So stop thinking about solutions. It's silly. In fact, if you ask a very relevant question or discover a very relevant problem of your neighborhood or your context, your amazing solution will come out of that. You do not have it to need to cover of yourself. The best solutions do not come from your otak, it comes from your discovery of a relevant problem. Okay? Having to do with the specific context. Tajul, considering your perceptions toward responsibility, so-called people with high reputation, I believe we must find the star architects around the world, bringing bad influence towards future generations in the industry. Yes, you're correct. Some might end up following them just to mimic their style and ways of doing things, but for some, they're honestly trying to learn the principles, the theories, and not aesthetics. Okay. Firstly, you're saying that the problem is with the followers. We are following not the wrong star architect, but we are following the wrong things about them. We're only following their style. I would argue that almost 98% of the star architects around the world do not have any deeper theory, philosophy, or principles. They only have style. But in order for you to understand this, you need to study their work. All of you are favorite architects, right? Go and look at the favorite project of your favorite architect of your entire life. Have you ever studied that work? Tidak, yeah? Any one of you? Let me ask. Muhammad Khairin, do you have a favorite building by a favorite architect?
Not really.
Not really. Oh, you are the unusual one. Let me ask Amira Amin. Do you have a favorite building by a favorite architect?
I actually don't.
Huh? Tada also. You guys are the most unusual students in the world. What about Emir? Oyo Ayum Kayum? Do you have a favorite architect and a favorite project?
Yeah, maybe perhaps Frank Gehry.
Who is it?
Frank Gehry.
Frank Gehry. Okay. Have you studied critically any one of the buildings he has ever done?
Not in depth, but we just did like a surface. Like for our level, we did have a subject to do that.
Understood. And this is the way it is around the world. Do not feel embarrassed, Emir. In fact, every single student I have asked this question in every country I've ever lectured in says exactly the same thing. Every single teacher I have talked to who has been completely honest also says the same thing. None of them have ever studied any one of the projects they ever liked in their lives. The reason is because school does not teach you how to critically analyze projects. And because of that, we have raised generation after generation of architects and teachers and students who do not know the reasons why they like things. So, in order to answer this question, Tazul Izrin, you need to study the architects whom you like to see whether they even have a philosophy or a theory that you can learn from. And I can guarantee you 95 to 98% of them do not. They only have a style. That's why followers of these star architects only copy their style, because there's nothing more to copy from. Yeah? You think it's shocking for me to say this, but you cannot be shocked because you yourself have not studied any of the architects whom you like. Betul? And I encourage you to study them. If you need to get in touch with me personally, you can. My phone number is there for everyone to see. If you go on my website, and you can contact me, and we can analyze your favorite project together. And I can guarantee you, you will be shocked. The Pritzker Prize winners are the ones, I do these workshops around the world where we analyze projects by Pritzker Prize winners. Almost 95% of those projects are already lousy just by looking at the north, south, east, and west. Because the good sun, where the sun rises, all of the buildings and the rooms facing the east are not necessarily appropriate to the east sun. The same way the evil sun facing the west, locations of rooms in the building are not appropriate to those things either. And the reason why famous architects are not able to design properly is because they're not critical of their own projects. They were not taught how to critically analyze projects. So what I'm saying to you may be shocking, but it is the truth. And the reason why you're shocked is because no one has ever told this to you before. In fact, your teachers have told you the opposite, that there's architectural greatness in all the famous projects. This is not true. But you do not know this until you start studying these projects one by one. I've studied hundreds of projects by famous architects and projects that keep on winning awards even today, and most of them are rubbish. Okay. Paul, good evening, Kevin. How do we start asking relevant questions? Wow. It sounds like a stupid question, but it is not a stupid question, Paul. It is the most important question in the world. What is a relevant question? Okay, maybe we can start by this. I give you a commission to design an airport. Okay, what is the first most important question to ask? It is the simplest question, actually. What is an airport? Most of us think we already know the answer. Oh, the airport is a gateway of arrival for visitors to a new country, right? So immediately we start designing based on that assumption. The problem with the world is we never start with relevant questions. What we think is a relevant question is only the way to an answer. We only want to know, what is an airport? Oh, it's a gateway lah. But no, an airport is not a gateway. Is an airport about flying? No. Flying is about the plane, about the bird. The airport does not fly. Oh, okay, the airport is not about welcome, it's not about flying. What is it about? How many of you have been to the airport? LCCT. LCCT Dua. All of you have been, right? Before the lockdown, all of you flew Air Asia, right? Or Malindo, right? What do you hate most about LCCT2?
The design so bland.
No, don't say about the design. What is the thing you hate most?
Long walking.
Long walkways. Long walkways. What does long walkways mean?
Wasted energy there, wasted time.
Not only wasted time, be more specific and simple about it.
The distance from arrival to terminal?
I know, but what does that distance mean?
Tired.
Not about tired. What makes you tired?
There are more shops.
Sorry?
More shops on the way.
Well, yeah, it's more of a shopping mall than an airport lah. But that's not the point. Someone said long walkways, and they said tired. What makes you tired?
Wasted energy.
I know the wasted energy makes you tired, but what gives you the wasted energy?
The process, like you have to.
The circulation.
What is circulation about?
Walking.
Exactly. Exactly. It's about walking. Remember the original low-cost carrier terminal? You didn't have to walk at all, you know. It's so little. You come out of the taxi, it's right there, you deposit your thing, everything is gone, you know, it's fantastic. But this LCC2, it's all about bloody walking. Not only about walking. If you are late, because the line was so bloody long, it's running, okay? How many airports in the world have been designed with the consideration of reducing how much you walk? How many airports in the world have been designed with the understanding of when you come out of the taxi, the kind of walking is very difficult walking because you got carry-on and you got the bloody check-in bag, which is so big. It is bigger than your mother, your father, and your grandfather all put together. It is horrible. You want to get rid of it. So it's walking with carry-on and it's horrible, huge luggage. You want to get rid of it immediately by checking it in. After checking in, you only have hand luggage. Okay, it's about walking very peacefully because you already got rid of that thing. It is the original low-cost carrier terminal, so it's very short and you got time to waste walking with leisure. Oh my God, it's LCC2. It's walking with desperation because you just check in your baggage, but the line to go through the custom is so long because it is so badly designed, you got to rush. So you are desperate, you're sweating, you are walking and running. It is walking after sitting down in a chair because you had so much time to do shopping, you got bored, you fell asleep. It is walking in a hurry because suddenly your flight is being called. How many airports have been designed with so many different varieties of walking that you can't even imagine it until you ask the relevant question? Do you understand what a relevant question is now? Just apply this example to anything, any commission you might ever be faced with, or any project you might ever have. And that is what relevant questions are all about. Start with the most basic, the most simple, and build it up into a huge narrative, a wonderful story, and you will be on the right track. Okay? Okay, I think I've answered all the questions. Maybe if you have any more, you can collect them, give them to Hakim, and he can send them to me by email. And then maybe we can have another session because it's very difficult for me to write all the answers. It's easier for me to answer verbatim with you in a conversation, and it takes me less time. Yeah, we can have another session. Okay, one more question by Danielle. What makes architects relevant? Same thing, asking relevant questions. Okay, so I hope you guys have gotten a good event from this. I hope you start thinking carefully about what it is that I'm not criticizing only for the sake of criticizing. I'm trying to ask difficult questions, to have all of us consider things we have not considered before, so that all of you will become the great architects of Malaysia in the future. You are the future of our country. And some of you will become leaders. Do not behave like Najib. Do not behave like Mahathir. Do not behave like any of the leaders we have, whether they're political or creative leaders, because they're all giving you the wrong direction. They're not teaching you about responsibility. Yeah. So be safe. Don't get infected. Have a wonderful week ahead. And thank you so much for sharing your company with me tonight. Yeah. And remember, if you need another session to answer more questions, we can do it. Yeah. Better than answering by email. But get Hakim to organize something else, maybe in 1 month or 2 months, whenever you feel like it. I am available. During the lockdown, there's a lot more opportunity to meet. Okay. Have a great night. Thank you so much for having me. Yeah.
Thank you, Kevin.
Thank you very much, Mr. Kevin Maklo.
Very welcome.
So, on the behalf of our organizer, EUREKA ARCHITALK team, I would like to give our full gratitude to Mr. Kevin Maklo for that lovely and, shall I say, eye-opening presentation. And we very appreciate your effort for joining us today. And it's truly a blessing.
Not at all. The honor is mine, and I should be saying thank you to you because being with young people makes me feel younger too. Okay? Terima kasih banyak. Have a good night.
You look very young though, Mr. Kevin.
No. Nice because Nice from far, far from nice, okay? You come close, you see a lot of age. Okay, you guys have a great night, have a great week, okay?
Before that, before we leave, we would like to have a photo session now. So if possible, I would like everyone to open up your cam and maybe we can take a short photo for our documentation. So, all right. So we count to 3. 1, 2, 3. Everyone smile. Okay, I think that's it for tonight. Thank you for all the participants who joined tonight, and I would also like to remind you guys that tomorrow we will be having our 5th Architalk session. Same time, same platform, and this time around our guest speaker is Mr. Azizi Didi. So make sure to tune in and join us tomorrow. So with that said, this session shall be dismissed. Thank you, everyone.
Good night.
Mr. Kevin.
Good night.
Thank you, Mr. Kevin.
Thank you, Mr. Kevin.
Bye.
Thank you, Mr. Kevin.